council meeting to order at 5:31. Review of the agenda. Any additions, deletions, anything we want to pull out of consent agenda? Councillor Hoekstra.
I would like to pull out the year in review and my own report, please.
Okay, we'll put the year of review as 6.5. And then the Councillor Hoekstra's report at 6.6. Anything else?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. I would request that we this Entertainment Center letter of support item from the consent agenda to the agenda for a little bit of extra discussion there. And as I believe I sent out earlier today, actually, I did receive a notice of motion which wasn't included from Councillor Ross related to acquisition and identification of land for the fire hall. So I would like to present that notice under the notice of motion section.
Okay. Letter at 6.7. And I believe also we have the mayor has requested we have a quick chat about the letter from RDRHC. And we can maybe add that as 6.8. And the first and last motion will be added as well. Anything else? Nothing. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Councillor Dallas?
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Just a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you. All those in favor then? And that is unanimous. All right. So as far as so we don't need do we need a motion to accept consent agenda? I can't remember. No, okay, that's just done. All right, then we'll move into presentations then. Joe, come on down.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Connick.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We do need a motion for the consent agenda as amended.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Legislative Coordinator Jace Bellabone. Councillor Hibbs.
I will make that motion.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, now we'll jump into presentations. This evening we have Joe Whitebread here. Joe, is here to present on behalf of the DARP committee, of which I'm a member. So I'm excited for Joe to be here tonight. Joe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Hello, Mr. Mayor. Good to see you, sir. Happy Valentine's Day. And to all of you, my first opportunity in Chambers to present to you. I was here on April 16th, actually virtually, April 12th, April 16th, back in April to the previously elected council. Congratulations, Mr. Dallas. It's good to see you. So as a local business owner, a resident of this community, also very important to work with Mr. Lapointe and the crew we have in what we affectionately call DARP, which is the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan. DARP isn't as fun to say, but that's what we call it. We've been meeting every month for over a year now through the pandemic online, and I am the chair of that committee, and I want to present to you some information about what we've been discussing, how we're intending to spend some of the funding, as well as welcome your questions at the end of this presentation. So with that, there is a PowerPoint presentation, I believe, that will be shared by Denise. And so we'll go through that, and thank you, Denise. Essentially, on the overview page, what I intend to share with you in the next 10 minutes is the projects as they were outlined first to most of you, and how they are proceeding, as well as the purpose, some of the discussions we've been having, some of the changes we've made to our committee, specifically as it pertains to governance. If you want to head to the second page there, Denise, for our overview. We're going to discuss the specifically the wordmark strategy development, the destination signage identification, and the proposed area and selection area, the courtyard at the LMC, the RFQ that was released, as well as some of the implementation factors, some of the risk mitigation, and ultimately some of the monies, which I will welcome Guy to address along the way as well. If you want to head to the next slide there. First thing you'll notice is that our organization welcomed Councillor Connick and Deputy Mayor to our committee, who wasn't originally on it. I think that's been very helpful. Certainly, Mr. Connick can speak to that in the future, but I think it's really important that we have a voice from council chambers as well as ears on it. And so, to your point earlier, I'm glad you've been to listen in on some of our progress or some of the things that we're hiccuping on potentially. And you can discuss at a later date with council. The O2 Design Group, which is the group out of Calgary that we've been working with, Sarah and Matt have been just exceptional. They really know what they're doing, to put it boldly and bluntly, and are helping us become a community that certainly we're all proud of, and money is spent here, there, and throughout as we move on through the scheduling. But I just want to recognize that O2 Design is part of this and can easily answer some of those questions, or at least through me. We have recently incorporated governance into our meetings. This originally was sort of a brainstorming how to spend money, and we were finding that creativity, while welcomed, was also not getting us to the places we needed for decision making, which all of you in the chamber can attest to. So we have recently gone through a governance strategy. We're working on that. So motions and actual decision-making processes. I say we're working on that because, as I'm sure each of you can understand, ideas are great, creativity is wonderful, but unless we make some actual decisions that spend some of this money, we can't get anywhere. So I'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. The cost consciousness of this goes without saying is incredibly important. We have $1.7 million to spend, and we have to spend that very wisely, as you'll see in the strategy coming up. So we are making what we believe are responsible decisions, and I'm reporting that to you here today based on things like budget and flexibility, and obviously impact on the various levels where we need to make that impact. There are different skill sets on our, I won't go over them in detail, but there are many different skill sets, and I'm very grateful for the people we work with on this committee, because we have business owners, we have residents, we have everyone who lives at home, no doubt, but certainly there's some assets in business strategy, in real estate, in money and finances, in costing, and those sorts of elements. We will talk tonight about priorities, about bumping some priorities, about how we've moved some priorities, and those sorts of elements, as well as some exciting projects that we think you'll like as much as we do. We'll begin, if you want to switch pages there, Denise. We'll begin on the courtyard regrading. The picture on the right, if you're familiar, is how the grass looks when the ice melts. And we recognize this as a major issue, a problem, no doubt. And so we've allocated some funding here. On the left column, you'll see issue identification, which was the ongoing multi-seasonal use of the site. We know this is a valuable space. We know in the summertime people have to sit on the lawn and watch from the Echo stage. But we know that we're wrecking the grass and it's not working out. And so we have allocated some funding to ensuring that we can maintain this, still maximizing the usage with significant cost savings. And we've actually had a group come up from Stantec to do a survey of the area, finding out some things we didn't know before, which Guy can speak to. We're heading in the right direction here. In our initial feasibility study way back when we were asking residents and business owners, the 10% of the response was that they wanted to see value in a year-round outdoor space. And so we believe this hits the nail on the head for that. So we can talk about that a little bit later on if necessary. Next page, if you don't mind. This one we're really excited about. Perhaps the first time most of you are seeing this. This landmark sign concept, which is a graphic production on the right in the photo, is really exciting. We want to differentiate, we as a group and a committee have decided, have really looked at Lacomb's downtown in a different way. We want, and hope you'll agree, that downtown is fundamental to the economics of our community, but that it isn't and doesn't separate. So part of the goal of our committee is to, while maintaining community relations with residential and other businesses and industrial and past the tracks, we want downtown to stand above like most other communities. And so this is going to be a major component of that. It's essentially an identification mark. It comes with a number of different elements, graphic design elements, banners, gateways, wayfinding, lots of different elements were discussed. But this, we believe, and by the way, if you don't recognize it, that is the northwest corner of the LMC where the rotary clock would be right now. So it's a really, a part of what we recognized on the committee was that our community is photogenic, it is loved, it is followed with the assets such as social media and the ability to share that with other people. There are elements of this that allow a greater broadcast of the community we all love, that we live in, to others. And so I don't mind answering questions on that a little bit later if you'd like as well. This will be a significant cost. At the same time, we're working with O2 and some designers on some of the elements, and I'm really excited about it, to be quite honest, and just to be quick about it. This is going to be a real establishing component of the brand that we want to bring, and there's some other elements to it, again, that I don't mind answering. The next page, if you don't mind. Something more simple and was discussed at a previous council meeting is the string. Oh, sorry. There's just a look at the greater graphic design of it. Thanks, Denise. The string lighting was discussed originally on 50th Street, the main, what people deem as downtown Lacombe, but obviously we heard feedback that others want to share in this. So there is room to bring this string lighting, these structural supports that would allow not only safety factors, but this romanticized version of downtown. We've discussed this in great length, from engineering to its look, to how many, to inclusion of as many businesses and opportunities as possible. We like this look. We like the romanticism and the old time feel of it, which we want to remain integral to our downtown and our historic buildings and the brick layouts. So this definitely hits the nail on the head. Our initial feasibility study had 43% of respondents discuss a unique look and vibe to our community. They wanted to maintain that, and we believe that does that. So I don't mind discussing that. If we go to the next one, Denise, and so our schedule, and then next. So there's some dates for you. The Pocket Park and Connector concept, which, if you recall, was a chance to purchase the A1 building, remove it, move through it. It was purchased out from under us on our committee, which is fine. That real estate project went down, but it actually spawned some new ideas. And the Pocket Park is what we're working on right now. A Pocket Park idea would be to take a piece of railway or infrastructure or alleyway right now. We're discussing options which we would bring to you at a later date, and create a in the city area for a pocket park. Aesthetically pleasing ability to share community right in the downtown core, like you would see in other major centers. We need that space. We have prospective space, and we can discuss that at a later date. And we hope to discuss that very soon with you, because as the trade show approaches in April, as you'll see, we would like council and the city to have the ability to discuss this with citizens potentially as well. So we think we're very close to bringing concepts like that to the hard part, which is discussing it with the community and then having them either yay, nay, okay, or yell at you, which I recognize. So we really there's some really neat ideas, but there's the dates of how we're moving ahead. Couple of costing factors for you. Our original project, when we met with you the first time in our short term, we were going string lights, landmark sign, pedestrian accessibility, the courtyard upgrade plan. Total on that page is just over 175,000. Next page, the medium-term plans, which would go from 2024 to 2026, include the tree asset management plan, the service upgrade, pedestrian-friendly shared street, pedestrian accessibility improvements, again, close to $1 million on that. And then longer-term plans, we have some great ideas, hopefully, for decorative crosswalks, public space connectors. We're certainly looking into the future when we talk about that order of projects. The approved 10-year capital plan on the next page, to 1.7, moves through to 2029. As you can see, pretty simple, easy intervals. On the next page, the suggested reprioritized projects include, on the short term, this wordmark program, which we're still costing, but really would love your support on. The landmark sign at 120, the LMC courtyard surface regrading, the public connector space, and the string lights as they move ahead. And then the medium term and long term on the next page as listed. And I want to save enough time for questions here. So, and certainly can reflect back on these. And I welcome Guy at, if he wants to add to any of this. Just before we wrap up and head to questions, the ongoing committee work includes our meetings at once a month. We are switching the governance. Guy and I will meet tomorrow for the first time with our committee. While we think it's important that decisions be made, as I addressed earlier, in a governance standard with motions put forward and final orders, we also welcome and are grateful for, as I said earlier, the expertise on our committee. And we believe that we disrupted that a little bit with the extra governance. There are responsible decision makers among our group that we need to discuss and really give opportunity for the rumination of these ideas. So we're spending the money appropriately. And so we are going to a back and forth effort on the committee just for logistics purposes. And we're looking forward to that. Still to come, the Pocket Park concept, it's in its infancy right now. We'll be able to report back to you with some new ideas. The commitment to execute your approved priority projects within this scope, and the reprioritization based on the costing and the impact. Before I hand it off to questions, Guy, anything you saw or would like to comment on, if you don't mind? Good. So I welcome your questions. I appreciate the short amount of time to present to you. While I might not be able to answer them all, given my time on the committee, I will certainly do my best.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. Thank you for that presentation. As you all know, on council, I've been appointed to this committee. This is a terrific, exciting committee, a lot of energy, a lot of good ideas. And I look forward to seeing many of these things come to fruition. I'd only wish DARP was around in this capacity when I was downtown, but c'est la vie, it is what it is. But I have said many times the strength of any community starts in its downtown. And if we have a strong and vibrant downtown, so community, in my opinion. So terrific presentation. Any questions from any of those on Councilor Purcell?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Koenig. I think this is a wonderful project. I thank the community committee for all the contributions. I guess my only comment is, personally, I feel that the LMC upgrade in terms of direct in front of the LMC is the rest of the project is to enhance downtown and create a vibrancy aesthetically, tourism, and to enhance that. But I feel the upgrade in front of the LMC is a capital towards I feel that the city, it's improving the LMC as a capital recreation and parks area. I think, in my opinion, that should be separate from DARP, that them funds could be used to further enhance aesthetically downtown. I think that specific project, in my opinion, should be the responsibility of Rec and Culture Parks as part of that budget to address that, because that is enhancing the city facility that, you know, the purpose, of my opinion, of DARP is to create the beautiful aesthetic vibrancy of downtown, even though that is going to be used, but and through the 12 months a year with very successful music in the park, and as Guy's created the skating area, I personally think that should be separate.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to hand it over to Guy. There was quite the debate on that in our committee. So hearing you, I know exactly, I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about. We did debate that component. And Guy, if you don't mind, do you mind discussing that debate and how we came to including it in DARP?
So again, it did come through the previous presentation, Council, as well. So in my mind, this discussion was had, and it was important to the committee to make sure that that use was there, both for summer and winter use, and there was that conflict in the downtown. Yes, it is a park, but it is contained within the downtown. The committee also chose to elevate the need for trees and a tree asset management plan, which again would likely fall to parks in the normal scheme of things. So appreciate the comment from Councillor Ross. The committee thought that this was important enough to capture within the DART plan.
Yeah, well said. I agree. And I do appreciate that feedback as well. I can promise you there was a debate within committee of that exact topic. Again, I'm glad you mentioned the trees, same thing. The beautification, the tourism element, the welcoming aspect, and the fact it's geographically in the downtown. But I agree with your point. Makes sense.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ross. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. I have a question regarding the signage. What was the consideration given to the rotary clock that's there? Like, it's 70 years old. Does it get any consideration, or was it just going to be torn down? And
yeah, it's a good question. Thank you, Councillor Gullickson. I'll defer to Guy. I don't know the answer to that.
What I will say is there may have been a misunderstanding as to the longevity of that clock. And I think the DARP would be willing to discuss ways to accommodate the clock on site if that were the case.
yeah, because I believe that clock was put up in maybe the early 60s, somewhere in there, or maybe even earlier than that. So it's been around an awfully long time. So I'm just wondering about relocation or something along those lines, because I do like the concept of this. I just don't want to lose that asset.
Understood. Appreciate that. I'll bring it back to the committee. Certainly, it was never our intention to toss it, throw it away, or disrespect it in any way. But to Guy's point, there was discussion of, there was no end term of that. It's been up perpetually, but understood. We'd be glad, based on budget, to take it down and donate, give, or speak to someone who can. But I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I recall we had chatted about that too within the committee. CEO Gowdy, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think that the point I had discussed this, and our thought was to salvage the clock and make it available for refinishing and to get it back. I believe it's been inoperable for a number of years. Is that accurate?
Prior to my arrival, for sure. So over 10 years.
So primary function of the clock is to tell time more than twice a day. And so we would want to, I guess, work with the to try and get that into a location, or sorry, into a condition that it's something to be proud of again, and can be displayed in the downtown in a way that really draws positive attention. I think that highlights the need for something you'll see later on this evening, which is the transfer of assets, an official transfer of assets from service clubs or donors to the city, when there is an expectation that the city is going to be taking on those maintenance and replacement obligations.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. Also with the landmark sign, further to what Councillor Gullickson was saying about Rotary, I don't want to speak on behalf of Rotary, but I would suggest that there is some interest in sort of some collaboration perhaps. So I would probably want to encourage you to pursue things like that because, you know, as we discussed, there is something there that's been in the community a long time. Rotary obviously had plans for it. It seems like maybe a little step got missed in conversation there. So we need to make sure that that doesn't happen again going forward. And again, I just reiterate that you know, Rotary is obviously a long history of contributing things to the community. And again, some interest was expressed at possible collaboration. Another angle to do with this landmark sign as well is this, to most people's viewpoint, would be considered public art. And I sit on that committee, the art collection committee, and that's of course indoor art as well as outdoor art. And they also were not involved in this conversation, and they see themselves as the keepers of art, I guess, essentially in the community, and you know, probably should be included in this conversation. So again, I would encourage the committee perhaps to reach out to that committee, and then there could be some collaboration. Sorry, it's getting a little bit of a bug in my throat. I do actually really like the idea of this. I'm assuming this location was selected for a specific reason, but were there other locations that were considered? Were there any in the, you know, in the running? Because it seems to me that there's a number of possible areas that could be, you know, quite nice in the community. So just if you could answer that, please.
Indeed. Thank you, Councillor Hibbs. A lot of people do know that a lot of people in our ideas, our brainstorming have not been contacted. This is our first public presentation since April of this. So 100%, once we move forward with finalized plans, and we aren't there yet, specifically with the landmark sign, we will engage those committees. Thank you for that idea. We do appreciate that. Certainly Rotary deserves that, as does your art committee. So I appreciate that. There were others discussed at length at our national meetings. This is where we came for a number of reasons that I won't go into here in this presentation. Specifically, the entry across the tracks to downtown, where I don't know how to. I guess where the old theater is, the Chinese food restaurant, but just beyond where they had set up the hometown hockey display to the entrance to downtown, if you recall. That was discussed. We wanted it to be specifically on this roadway, given the visual access by vehicle traffic on Highway 12. And we wanted it as close to the LMC, quite frankly. That's what it came down to. This is also, although it's not finalized yet, this is also a lit feature, which will allow elements of social support. It can be lit red for Valentine's Day, for example. It can be lit for a social program or some sort of, as you've seen potentially with the Calgary Tower or the CN Tower. There's lit elements to this, and we thought that would be a good tie-in as well to the LMC lights at Christmas time or through the holiday season and other elements. So this is where it landed, but yes, other places were discussed, although on the main roadway, it was the idea.
Director.
So I just wanted to make a couple comments about the choice of location. Ultimately, the committee had discussed gateway features. They were either too cheap or too costly. And we actually worked with the consultant to walk the downtown. And it was decided that this location on the southeast corner was the best location in terms of visibility within the community. It also, committee-wise, there was a desire for this to be a destination. And so that this wouldn't work like a gateway where you're entering the downtown. It was more like you would drive to the sign and take the Instagrammable shots and post to social media, that sort of thing. And so, of course, the LMC being the destination that it was, the committee thought that that would be the best location for it. I did also want to comment on the art element that was brought up. And again, Joe can probably attest to this. I don't think the committee really saw the project as art. And certainly it's incorporated artistic elements. But it was an idea created by the group and fabricated, pretty much to the design. And I think they'd see it more as a branding exercise, really. And Joe's talked a little bit about the word mark that it was spawned from that, and that could, we could talk a little bit about that afterwards as well. But to Ed's point, we might have crossed that threshold at some point. And I think the group will certainly be more sensitive to those concerns as we move forward.
CEO Gowdy, I see your ladies on.
So while I'm always hesitant to disagree with a counselor, I in this instance, do disagree that there was a step missed in the consultation with the art collection committee. I review the art development policy that forms the committee. Their intent is to manage the city's art bank. And so that is a specific collection of art that is funded through donations, an annual contribution of $9,000 from the city's budget, and a qualifying component of the eligible capital components, capital expenditures, those being publicly accessible construction and capital projects of the city. In this instance, this will not become part of the city's art bank, and council did allocate funds specifically for this project and empowered the group as presented this evening to make a purchase for a gateway feature. Now, I will be the first to admit that in my mind, a gateway feature was like Old Strathcona, that. And certainly I can see how what has been developed is not exactly that. It is something more akin or more relatable to the kind of tree that was installed as part of the Main Street project. However, again, that was actually funded through the art policy and accessed into the city's art bank. And so I just here, I know that this group has been working very hard and has not had any intent to tread on the jurisdiction or the area of other committees that are in existence. And I think that if we make it seem that the aesthetic of the city, and many things can have an aesthetic component, many of our capital projects, is subject to the input at all times from the Art Collection Committee, that could add a significant burden to other architectural or publicly accessible capital investments that isn't currently within our process. So that was why he came to me with this concern. I said to continue on as we had, that in this intent, or in this instance, did not involve the Lacombe Art Collection Committee specifically for the gateway feature.
Thank you for that, CEO Gowdy. I'd just like to weigh on that too a little bit. Just going back to Rotary, that the intent of this group was never to toss that thing in the dumpster by any means. There was always an intent to do something with the Lacombe Rotary clock. Would be the intent. I would agree wholeheartedly with you, CEO Gowdy, on this notion that landmark sign is art. I would disagree. I don't think it's art at all. I would dare say as well, having sat on the Arts Collection Committee, that I find it curious that they want to provide feedback on this, but when the Art Collection Committee does things such as the art at the arena, they didn't consult with the Rec and Cultural Board. When they did the pig downtown, they didn't consult with DARP. So I just, they have their funds, DARP has their funds. This is two distinct groups. A lot of time and effort has gone into this landmark sign and the Wayfair finding, the marketing piece that's going to go with this, and to have. I don't want to see it get derailed simply because someone thinks that this is art. So I would totally agree. I think that they're on a good path here, and I don't think we should be muddying the waters and art collection committee has operated carte blanche in this city for many years. I dare say half the time when something comes out, we don't even know until it's up. So I don't think they need to be consulting on this, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just for clarification, I'm not talking about muddying the waters or complicating. It's just a matter of collaboration. It's just a matter of communication. And I think that would have gone a huge way prior to this sort of coming forward. Exactly the explanation that CAO Gowdy just gave would have been perfectly reasonable, that I could have shared that with the committee, but of course I got blindsided with this, and it's kind of like, well, okay, well, I'll bring your feelings forward to council, but that shouldn't be heard. So please don't hear that as in we wanted to develop a project with a like project. It's not that at all, right? It's just the committee feels that that's public art, and in their mind, they just kind of want to be involved in it and hear about it. And you know, obviously, according to the terms of reference for that committee, fine. But again, that's all it is. It's not a matter of not liking it or wanting to change the project. They just want some communication, some opportunities for collaboration.
Any questions for Joe at all, or are you?
No, I think that this is a wonderful presentation for a first go, and there's just simply by presenting it here, there's lots of groups, and I'm sure I'll have more input to the DARPA committee, which is fine. I don't think that anybody has been overlooked or not consulted to. This is the initial presentation, as Joe had mentioned, and I like what I see so far.
More questions? Thanks for coming in, Joe, with your presentation. And I know I look forward to seeing the many things that this group has been planning and coming forward with in the next few years. I think it's exciting. And I think it'll add a lot to the downtown core already. So thank you very much.
I sincerely appreciate your time, and specifically, Councillor Connick, thank you for joining in on the conversations, even when you're at soccer practice with your kids. It means a great deal to us to have a voice of council with us. And duly noted, as was mentioned, we, like you, want to communicate. Now, this was an initial presentation. Very glad to give you more information, either in our personal and professional ways of life, or when I meet with you again the next time I have a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, with that then, we'll head further on the agenda, but no public hearings. Request for decisions. So 6.1 Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan Progress Report. Guy, of course, we had a terrific presentation there. I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to elaborate on, but the floor is yours.
Sure, perhaps just a quick summary. This evening, Council received the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan Committee update as information. The committee is working on priority projects approved by Council at its April 12th, 2021 meeting. The $1.7 million in funding was divided into equal contributions of $330,000 every 2 years, beginning in 2021. Initially, the committee organized the projects into short, medium, and long-term priorities, with the understanding this delineation was high level and may change as the committee's work progressed. This evening, the DARP committee's update included details around the LMC courtyard topical survey, indicating a regrade of this site would yield the surface improvements for summer and winter usage. And this change would also result in significant savings. One-off string light upgrades proved to be costly and inefficient. Said that the group isn't going to pursue it, but they postponed this item, intending to piggyback off of other DARP projects. The landmark signage is site identification and project selection, as recently reviewed, and the committee's continued evaluation of public space site venues. It believes there are robust options available that may move this project up the priority list. Following tonight's meeting, communications and marketing will plan to release a series of videos promoting the DARP projects as they come to fruition. This will be an opportunity to speak about concept development and project highlights. With that, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Lapointe. Any questions on the floor? Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Quick question on the cost of the LMC upgrades to the grassed area. Seems to be pretty high to me. Did you get those estimates from Stantec or?
This is the 25,000. So that was the original plan was 270,000. The new number is 25,000. Right. So sorry, just to clarify the original plan was thinking about anything from artificial turf to perhaps a skating surface with a concrete slab. And so that's why that number was significantly higher. The group decided that they preferred the natural look, and that's what led us to the topo survey in the end that yielded the much lower number.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Voss.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Koenig. So could you elaborate on natural look? So are you still doing artificial turf or like definition of natural?
So the topo survey has indicated that there is a drainage issue on site. And so ultimately what will happen is just simply regrading the site and then they'll seed it, hydroseed it in the fall is what the plan is at this point. And that will take care of the ongoing issue that we see on site.
And just further to your earlier comments, Councillor Ross, I think there are, I appreciate those comments where you suggested that perhaps those funds should come out of the city's capital budget, but I think there are other opportunities within. I want to take a look at that. I don't know if that, to me, that's an overarching citywide thing, just not confined just to DARP. So that might have to, you know, that's an area that could probably come out of here and those funds could. But anyways, that's for further discussion down the road. Any further questions as it pertains to this? And if not, I would certainly entertain a motion. Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Creasy. I see your hand.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I was just wanted to be sure I completely understood this drainage issue at the LMC park area. Are we under the impression that by addressing the drainage there, that's going to keep the ice surface from killing the grass? Is that the goal here?
That is the understanding at the moment, Mayor Creasy. Of course, we have to go through the process to see what the final result is. But there is clearly a drainage issue on site. And initial indications are that the water retention and sedimentation that's killing the grass.
Okay, I have no doubt that there is. I guess I fail to see the correlation between addressing a summertime or a non-freezing issue for drainage and how that is going to keep a winter ice surface from killing the grass that grows there. It's quite a leap.
Again, I'm the expert in this area. We did bring in Stantec to do the topo survey for us. I don't know if Director Thompson is online at this point. But again, there are strong feelings that the retention of the water on site was causing the concerns that we currently have.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, so Stantec, an engineer firm, looked at this and not someone whose background is in grass, or I'm just sorry, I just.
That was the recommendation from the engineering department at this point, was to have a topo survey done of the site. So this was the action that we moved forward with.
Okay, I realize Stantec was behind that, but anyways, hopefully that should do the trick. Councillor Hibbs.
I believe that council received the downtown redevelopment plan committee update as information.
Thank you for that. If there are no further questions, Councillor Ross.
My apologies. Anyways, to keep delaying this. I guess in my previous agricultural, anytime there's pack snow or pack ice, you kill the plant. Like, I could see it in an engineering grade issue, but in terms of grass ecology, it's the ice that's gonna kill the grass. That's, anyways, all the respect you can take upon the effort, but I think it's the long-term solution. I don't think is gonna be successful. That's just my opinion.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ross, and yeah, I tend to agree with you perhaps a little bit. We'll give this a go, but go back to your original point. If perhaps this doesn't work, then maybe this needs to come back to the purview of something as a capital project that council would tackle then. If there are no further questions, CEO Gunny.
Just to council's concerns, Stantec does have certified landscape architects on staff that deal with this sort of issue at all times, and trained in this. We'll then check to make sure that they're involved in the recommendation for regrading.
Thank you for that, CEO Gunny. So, no other questions? The motion is on the floor. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. All right. 6.2, 2022-2025 strategic plan post council review. CEO Gunny.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Conic, sorry. So, following our last review, which was the first review of the draft 2022 to 2025 strategic plan that council is looking at for this term, I did send out a short survey to council to look for, I'm sorry, this is the year in review, isn't it? No? Did you?
Strategic plan.
Thank you. So after your last update review, I sent out some consultation opportunity and did receive a little bit of information back. I kind of put those general comments and amendments as well as administrative recommendations as to whether we recommend the change or not. The request for decision before you. And what I would really look for at this point, since you won't be accepting the draft plan this evening, would be a thumbs up or thumbs down, or to the side if you don't really care, about the specific amendment that's being considered. And then the final draft that will come to you on the 28th will have those items reflected as we receive direction this evening, and hopefully meet with your satisfaction on the 28th. So with that, I would go through each item, if that's all right. So the first is to one of the respondents request confirmation that administration supports the proposed plan and believes it provides a suitable level of detail and timelines to advance council's objectives. We're not recommending any action here, but I'm happy to state that yes, we do support the plan and believe that it will give us sufficient direction to move forward on enacting it. One respondent would like to see more pictures included in the document highlighting Lacomb's great places and people, and whenever possible, look to identify the location or person. Again, here we don't recommend any action. That's something that we will look to do. Of course, unless there's anyone in opposition now. A minor item on the wording of the mayor's message, which again, we are recommending will include in the final draft. Under growing the community, include a more thorough analysis and presentation on the idea, or sorry, one proponent requested a more thorough analysis and presentation on the idea of the city purchasing and possibly developing land, and would look to have some more information about the pros and cons of that. So here we are looking for direction. If you would desire to have this additional dialogue opportunity, then we've drafted a possible item to include, which should be present a report to committee highlighting the advantages and disadvantages of land purchase and development with a target timeline of 2023. So if you would like to see a report to committee about the opportunity of purchasing and developing land, please indicate that to me now. And if not, then we won't include that item as a tactic.
Thank you, Councilor. Just, do we not do this already? Like, I don't understand, like, isn't that something we just talk about, like, when opportunities come up anyways, or what's, I'm just trying to,
So I took this to be more of a general philosophy on whether and discussion on whether the city is interested in acquiring land in general, not a specific parcel, which you're right, we absolutely do discuss each time. But I think there was a feeling that, yes, it comes each time and it is considered in this nebulous one-off space rather than having a strategy about whether we are interested, we, council, is interested in acquiring land whatsoever.
okay. Sorry, thank you, Councilor Hibbs. Yeah, I'm just a little confused by it because I think as opportunities arise and come about, we have those discussions. I don't know what a policy would, anyways, I guess it's, what are everyone's thoughts? Do you want to have a thumbs up, thumbs down? Yeah. Okay, we got a thumb. I'll go up. What are, Mary, have you got a thumbs up, thumbs down? Where are you at? Or did you want to speak to it?
Well, if I could just for a moment, I'm not really sure what we're trying to accomplish here. I think that we've got a pretty good system in place. There's far too many variables on this subject. And I think as those opportunities become available, they have been brought before council in the past. And I think that's an appropriate path forward. And by having a hard and fast policy in place, I don't think that we're going to have the flexibility that we do now, and I really don't see the point of it in this particular case.
Valid point, excellent point. Thank you for that. C.L. Gowdy.
So I didn't receive, I'm taking the mayor's previous comment, not being in support, as a thumbs down. And then I saw 2 more thumbs down and 3 thumbs up, which would be a tie. Sorry, Councilor Dallas.
Well, to be fair, I think we'll do this again. I'm sorry, right? I hadn't realized the mayor wanted to weigh in, so that's fine. Councilor Ross, you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. I guess I look at this as I don't want to lead the perception that we're going to try to interfere with any developers or change what we're doing. I guess I look at this as a policy that I would like to see our working relationship increase, but yet I don't think our intentions is to be outright and be part of the free real estate market to buy land and interfere with the market, so to speak. But I look at this as an opportunity to be more part of the relationship, to be more in a positive compared to the past as moving forward, possibly, and to be involved in relationships, to market the city and through hopefully that kind of development person in place, just to, I don't want to be looked at this as a negative that we're interfering. We're going to go outright and be part of the real estate marketplace to purchase property. I don't look at that as this. I look at this as to create a more positive perception that we're here to work with them. So I'm a thumbs up for that makes sense in that way.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Connick. I'm for this because I think that we haven't discussed enough what the advantages or disadvantages are of when a municipality goes out into the marketplace and purchases property, and what kind of influence that may have on the economics of their community, and whether citizens genuinely want us to be significant landowners, if you will. I disagree that every time we maybe have considered this in the past that we discuss this, we only discuss the merits of the purchase in front of us, if that makes sense. So it's very much more a positive or negative from an economic point of view, or affordable point of view. So I think that there are definite messages out there about the role of municipalities as significant land purchasers, and I think we should talk about that.
Thank you. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do agree with Councillor Litchfield's points, but I do believe that we can have further discussion on this before including it in our strategic plan. So that would be my reasoning. Thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies. I'll be a little more clear when calling for thumbs up, thumbs down. We should try to get all the comments in hand before we get carried away with that. So has everyone had a chance to weigh in? Would anyone else like to comment on this? All right, so let's try this again. Thumbs up or thumbs down? So it looks like to me we have 4 down, 2 up. Oh, sorry, 5 down and 2 up. So that's on there. And then that's to this additional strategic plan.
The next item was a respondent that does not support strategy number 3 under growing the community, which was the attraction of major retailers. Our recommendation here is to include strategy number 3 under the context that the majority of council has endorsed this strategy as a high priority outcome. And I believe the respondent is of this recommendation. And so we are looking there. A thumbs up would be to include to keep it the same. A thumbs down would be to remove strategy number 3, attract major retailers.
Thank you, CEO Gotti. Would anyone like to, well, I guess I can weigh in. I think we need to obviously stay the course. This is something that, in my opinion, would be a huge, make a huge impact on this city going forward. We've taken some steps already in this matter. We have a major retailer who has purchased some land, and my hope is that he will continue to follow through and build here one day. So I don't think this is just a tax job, attracting new business, new residents. I think it's a huge deal. So I'm still in favor, obviously. Would anyone else like to weigh in on that, or CEO Gotti, I see your light is on still, or did you? Nope. Anyone else? No? Right? I want to make sure I don't want to jump the gun here. Okay, if we're all good, let's get the thumbs up. Please. And so we're still 6-1 on that, so we'll continue forward with that.
The next item under growing the community is a respondent that requested more clarity around growing the community tactic F, which was complete a functional plan and outline plan for the future redevelopment of 50th Avenue. The questions this respondent had were, is the purpose to change the number of lanes? If so, the respondent would not support allocating resources to investigate such an option. They don't believe such a thing is feasible. The administrative recommendation on this item is to lessen the commitment for this and change the tactic to present a report to committee outlining possible future planning considerations for the redevelopment of 50th Avenue in 2025, and have that discussion at a committee meeting to say, is there merit in proceeding with this at all, or is it just so far-fetched that it's not viable to proceed?
Okay, thank you for that clarification. This concern I brought up, I know the traffic transportation master plan talks about that should go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, which I think is ridiculous to have a 4-lane highway go through your downtown core. So I've always been a strong advocate against this idea. I don't love the idea of to explore and look at things, but I certainly don't want to hear to the transportation master plans as laid out, because that's just a non-starter for me and downtown businesses and citizens, I think, at large. I could be wrong. So I'm fine with the amendment that we target something in 2025 as a committee meeting to discuss it further. So any further comments to that? Thumbs up, thumbs down? And I think that's a majority of thumbs. Continue.
Moving to managing the community resources, there was only one comment. Strategy number 3, tactic E, amend to continue to provide responsible management of regional water and wastewater commissions. I believe this came up actually at a meeting. And just a request for clarity to make sure that it was clear that we're talking about the regional water and wastewater as opposed to regional solid waste, for example. Not recommending any change. We don't believe this changes the substance of the tactic and would support change and find a draft for adoption. Under building the community, there's a couple of minor ones which I won't go through, an extra I and a few things there. Under strategy number 1, tactic D, council had requested an amendment to a review of city utilities, water, wastewater, and solid waste. Again, we believe that extra clarity has value and is worthwhile. Strategy number 1, add a new tactic. And this would be in coordination with the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan Committee, create a tree replacement plan or a tree management plan with a timeline of 2024. And we are recommending this tactic be included directly after existing tactic I. This item has been tested by the DARP committee and several of the respondents to the strategic plan. But there, that is a new item, so we're looking for some direction through an indication this evening.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That I definitely was one of the respondents that handed that info in. I would like it, I know the DARP was obviously concentrating on the downtown as far as their tree asset management, whatever you want to call it. As Deputy Mayor Connick had mentioned earlier, that it should be citywide. That's what my feedback was, that it actually should be citywide, because obviously our community takes great pride in its hills, not just downtown. So that would be my, I just want to highlight that in my opinion, it should be citywide and not to be confused with just downtown.
Any further comments to that item? Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Let's do a thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you thumbs up, Mayor Creasy? Excellent. So that's continue.
One respondent questioned, understandably, whether the tactic of electronic check signing fits under the strategic plan. I completely understand the concern, but it is a joint function with council, and having council support for changing that that process that helps advance the change. And it really has been stalled for a couple of years, just as we move on to other priorities. So identifying that as a priority is something we would love to see happen sooner than later.
Oh, yep. Thank you, Councillor Dallas. Yes, I did not have my mic on. Any thoughts on that? Councillor or Mayor Creasy, go ahead.
Thank you. So given that it's generally speaking the mayor that's signing checks and whatnot, I think this might add a certain degree of convenience. However, I would be very much opposed to this idea in general, should it mean that we need yet another level of software programs and whatnot to administer and operate in order to accomplish this. So I guess I'm a little cold on it. I have no problem if we can go through this in a cost-effective manner. However, I think that the benefit could easily be consumed by the cost to implement it should we have to go the way that I was referring to. Thank you.
Is there a way we can this can just like the tree and the downtown, the 50th Ave? Is that something that can be explored in a committee and get some costing on before we wholeheartedly commit to it? I would agree with the mayor. If the software's 100,000 to sign, 15 checks every 2 weeks. I don't know if that's prudent.
Yes, if that's council's desire, we can have a report to committee on electronic check signing benefits and costs.
Okay, I'm good with that. I'll let you know the rest of you. Okay, so we'll do a thumbs up to report to committee and exploring that idea. And then before we wade into it wholeheartedly, just to see what that would, thumbs up for that. Very good then, thank you.
Moving on to supporting the community, one respondent asked if under supporting the community strategy 1, which was the expansion of community programs and partnerships, the plan should include specific references to identified partnering agencies. Examples given were FCSS, McMahon Society, and the Lacombe Police Service. And here we would look for some direction. Certainly the identified agencies are very, very critical partners of the city. There's some advantage to a more broad, non-specific reference to partnering agencies. So we would look for council's direction on that.
Thank you for that. And I can understand your reservations there. I would hate to start naming and then we forget 1 or 2 or 3. So I don't know. I think a broad approach would be best myself. Any more thoughts on that? Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I also agree that when you start naming some, when do you draw the line and how do you stop? So I would appreciate not naming and just the bad stroke.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. I would definitely not name agencies because we don't know what agencies may be coming into our community, and then are we kind of being tasked to not work with them? I think it should be a generalized statement.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? So I think as far as this goes, then we'll frame it that we'll just leave the language the way it is as a broad stroke. And look for a thumbs up for that. Thumbs up or down? And Mayor Creasy is waiting for okay. So we'll continue.
The next item is that a respondent is not in support of supporting strategy number 2 under supporting the community, tactic E, which was to create a community standards ambassador program. This respondent echoed some of the concerns that we had during our budget workshop, which were concerned that the program requires further definition and is not succeeded in its current form. Our recommendation here is some additional direction. Is to request some additional direction. As you recall, Council Miller endorsed this program in the 2022 operating budget, and certainly the funds that are in the budget could be reallocated to support more traditional enforcement strategies. So I guess I would look for some direction there, whether to keep or eliminate the creation of a community ambassador program, community standards ambassador program.
I'd like to go in first. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I guess I would be one of the people that would be in favor of not necessarily going with the ambassador program. But I guess I would be curious as to what the reallocation to support more traditional enforcement strategies would be. And I'm wondering if this is perhaps another discussion that should be had, like a committee type meeting that we were using for that other item as well. So I don't know if that would be worth considering, because I think that this is something that's important in the community. We've heard about this over and over and over again, and I think we really need to make sure that we get it right, because it isn't just chump change. So because of that, I'd like us to consider.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hibbs. Of course, having been here the longest, bylaw enforcement has been an ongoing issue since day one. And I would agree with there's always room to improve there. I'm not sold on the ambassador Standards Ambassador Program myself, but I would agree with Councillor Hibbs that if that money is to be reallocated, we need to figure out what we can do better, because it's always been something from day one that we can't seem to, I don't know if we'll ever get it right, but maybe it's certainly worthy of a committee meeting where we can discuss further options, I would think. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Koenig. I guess I'd just like to further ask Councillor Hibbs and yourself as a little more options as we go into CPO 1. From my understanding, that would give their area of scope more enforcement. So then that would, if we could have the cost back to the cost of what the intentions are, what the Community Standards Ambassador Program versus another CPO 1, and could they be collaboratively more interactive to enforcement? Could be the increased scope between our current officers and CPO 1s, that we could have more of a enforcement throughout the community is what I feel has been expecting, so or lacking, and yeah, could that be more, I don't know, pertaining to the police service? Could that be shared there to be more benefit? I don't know. I just I think this second terms, and obviously Councillor Connick's several more, but I mean, this has been an ongoing issue, and I just I want to know the cost difference between if it's going to be half of a member and still and the CPO 1 and the ambassador program. Can we have more enforcement within that CPO 1 scope?
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through my moonlighting other employment, I have access to information regarding peace officer visits and such. And I feel strongly that an ambassador program would probably be an excellent step. I think our administration suggested it because they reviewed other options. But, you know, we can send fully paid enforcement officers out to review situations, or as this program would direct, we can send someone without that enforcement on to investigate and then create additional action if needed. And I see the benefit from that, from calls for service that I see created in other municipalities. So.
Thank you for that. Again, I think this is something that's certainly worthy of discuss. Oh, Mayor Creasy, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, Deputy Mayor. So some interesting input on this particular item. I think there seems to be some substantial confusion on precisely what this ambassador position is really all about. Just by some of the comments were made, obviously my understanding of what it and others is rather different. So on the surface, I have a hard time endorsing this program, but I'm certainly willing to take some time and explore it more fully so that everyone has a better understanding of precisely what this is to accomplish.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. CEO Gotti.
So what I might suggest would be to include a report to committee with our community standards bylaw review that's planned for Q2 of 2022. That's already in the community, supporting the community strategic plan. And if we identified the presentation of a report to committee on options for the ambassador program versus more traditional enforcement options, what those costs would look like. Perhaps that would provide the opportunity to review the program in a little more detail at the same time as you're reviewing the bylaw.
No, I think that sounds like a plan. Absolutely. You know, this is something we grapple with all the time, so we've got to try and do something and figure something out. I think that sounds like a terrific idea. Let's do thumbs up, thumbs down. Oh, just as CEO Gowdy suggested, the committee. we're gonna get more information. We're gonna talk about, as it, the review of the bylaw comes back to us, then we can schedule a committee meeting and explore further ideas, whether it's this or something else, but committing to this right out of the gate, we need to explore it further, so. I think I saw lots of, yeah, there we go. So we're good on that. Continue, CEO Gotti.
One respondent requests a timeline of item 3A, the completion of an inventory and gap analysis of current social services in the city, be identified as 2023 Q1. Direct action. Quarterly timelines have only been identified for the 2022 items rather than the entire plan at this item. And so certainly, if that is a desire of council, that it be completed, or sorry, that it begin in 2023 Q1, then that is something that we can begin at the beginning of 2023 and satisfy this request quite easily. That is the last recommended change, or sorry, requested change or comment that we received back on the strategic plan. And so if there is nothing, I'm sorry, there was one other item that was captured via originally notice of motion, and that is, I think, part of why I made the mistake that I did, is that Councillor Ross at the meeting itself had requested, at our previous meeting, had requested identification and acquisition of land for the fire hall be identified as a tactic within the strategic plan with a timeline of 2022. He has submitted a notice of motion, which appears on the agenda this evening. I think there are two ways you can proceed with this. Either proceed with that notice of motion and make a decision therein to include in the strategic plan at a further update, or direction this evening to include that in the strategic plan, and thus will disregard the notice of motion essentially. If that would be satisfactory to Councillor Ross, that I think both of those options are there.
Thank you, CEO Gotti. My preference would be to deal with it as a notice of motion. I mean, we have a bit of fire on this, so I think that's important to us. This is more of a secondary, it's a first step, if you will, or one of many steps. So I think the notice of motion route, because it's a big piece, and I think that needs to be dealt with separately. I'm not entirely sure as to if the timelines that Councillor Ross has suggested are great or not, but that needs to be discussed, I think, through the notice of motion myself. I don't know what anyone else's thoughts on that. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. I do agree. My intention of a notice of motion that if a specific site is selected, that a site may affect other user groups that I feel need to be well accommodated for prior to the building site of a police service building. And I just want the user groups accommodated within good reason and ahead of distant timeline appropriately is the purpose of my notice of motion. So I would agree with Deputy Mayor Connick to stay with the notice of motion.
Thank you. Just to you said it's fire service. Just so if we're good with that, I think we'll just stay the course and increasing. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I thought you said you were moving on from this item, but if you want me to weigh in, I was just curious. Some potential properties were outlined for this particular purpose, and I guess I would prefer to, like you, to see this go through the notice of motion process rather than being a strategy in our strategy plan. I just wanted to put the question to Chief Gowdy. Will this alter the time frame that he's working on now, or is this kind of a moot point anyway?
I would say it would advance where we're at, where we're currently planning, because as it stands today, I believe the first budget allocation for any site preparation or acquisition, if required, is 2023, with the balance in 2024. So as far as 2022 work goes, we would be passively looking at things that are coming up, say the opportunity that came up through the airport presentation. We wouldn't be actively seeking out or working with any realtors to identify possible sites.
David, thank you. Just a quick follow-up then. That's fine, but this is to identify properties. This isn't necessarily to procure them, is it not?
The notice of motion as submitted does include the intent to acquire in 2022.
My apologies for misreading that. That does change things from my perspective, because I think putting a time frame on the procurement of it for me is problematic, and I don't think that's in our best interest. I think identifying potential locations, whatnot, I think there's value in identifying those, but in the actual procurement, I think we're just setting ourselves up for failure to expect to be done this year. And if we have to move ahead and do something perhaps not totally in our best interest just to satisfy the direction to have this done this year, does not serve our best interest.
Thank you for that, Mayor Creasy. And to the end of the day here, I think that's why we need to talk about this as through the motion process. So I'm fine with the notice of motion as it's written. When it comes up to council, then we can talk about procurement or site identification or whatever the case may be at that time. So that's point then. I would certainly entertain a motion. I think the one that's recommended will suffice in terms of the amendments that have come forth. Would anyone like to present that motion? Oh, Councillor Ross.
I just, my apologies, Deputy Mayor. I just have one other maybe comment towards our strategic plan. As we're going through our strategic plan and timeline frames, I did emphasize some concern over the ability of the number of 2022 and 2023, I guess, expectations. And I guess I have a concern of administration in light of the times as we currently are. We've had significant amount of staff. For some that work out well, I still feel in some ways it is not as efficient. And I guess I'm just kind of compassionately taking into consideration the administration that I think there should be consideration to be spread out some from our strategic planning time of, I'd rather take the situation of over delivering and under promising rather than you're front loading the term of when we went through from 20, not the 4 years. And I guess it's wonderful if you can deliver, but I think I did emphasize to administration just to look at the timeline of expectations and their strategic plan. If you can deliver what was put out in the timelines. So.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I believe CEO Gowdy has already answered that question when we looked at the very first suggestion that was made there, and administration approves the plan as presented. So I think if he had some, correct me if I'm wrong, but if he had trouble with the timelines, he would have probably told us. So I'm guessing we're okay.
Yes, I did review them again with our staff between the first and second, and we actually do have significant momentum on a lot of the items that are identified for 2022. And so they indicated to me that they're confident they can hit the timelines that of course, unforeseen circumstances do arise. But having worked with council in the past with a strategic plan, I think I'm confident there will be an acknowledgement that shifting landscapes require shifting timeframes from time to time.
Thank you, CEO Gowdy. If you could just supply a little teeth whitener to my teeth on my picture, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm good. Any other comments? Is there a motion? Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. I'll make the motion that council provide direction to administration.
Accept this as, and then.
We don't want to. No, I'm looking at this motion. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay, let's.
No, I want to say.
Go ahead.
That we approve the amendments as presented to be included in the 2022-2025 strategic plan. Is that not quite right either? Though? Or
To include the amendments, yes.
What do you
I
want?
think what you had suggested was pretty good. Councillor Hoekstra too. I don't know. I think CEO Gotti knows where we're heading with this, so.
Yeah.
And the three of them.
Did you want to read it back?
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Koenig, the audio is a little bit cracky here, so I have here that council provide direction to administration to include the amendments presented in the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan.
Can we say as per the discussion this evening, the amendments as discussed, that include that, Coordinator Balbono?
Councillor Hoekstra, that's your motion. Are you good with that?
I'm very good with that.
Clear, Legislative Coordinator Balbono? Yeah?
As presented will be replaced with as discussed.
Excellent. No other questions, comments? Call the question. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. On to contributed asset transfer, Director Lapointe.
Council is asked to review the proposed Echo Community Stage contributed asset transfer. The Lacombe Performing Arts Center launched the stage in 2017. The stage is the product of a community collaboration with Echo Lacombe and the city, as well as the Lacombe Performing Arts Center. Echo provided 50% of the financial contributions up to a maximum of $20,000, while the city permitted access to Lest We Forget Park, where the stage is now located. Stage is the host venue for the Popular Music in the Park series, which runs from June through August. It also features prominently in other events like Light Up the Night and is used for small weddings and gatherings. It aligns well with the city's downtown area redevelopment plan as it brings traffic and increased activities to the downtown area. The Lacombe Performing Arts Center seeks to make the stage available to the city to ensure its long-term maintenance and sustainability. They officially resolved to transfer it to the city at their December 9th, 2021 meeting. They also have asked for the installation of a commemorative plaque in honor of Len Lorenz to be part of the transfer. Accordingly, if accepted, the city would lead ongoing maintenance and insurance of the asset. We expect the life expectancy of the stage to be about 20 years, and administration forecasts the need for some repairs in year 10. Administration is recommending council approve the Echo Community Stage contributed asset transfer as presented, and with that, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Lapointe. Anyone have any questions? I'm certainly on board. This has echoes of Lapa and other things that occur, and then we end up taking more, which is fine. I mean, I guess that's to be expected. I'm sure there's a rotary clock that'll probably come one day for us as well, so, and that's all good. Maybe not. Maybe rotary will take, who knows? So, any other comments? If not,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move that council approve the Echo Community Stage contributed asset transfer as presented.
thank you. Any further comments, questions? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is unanimous as well. Thank you. So Special Forces Pension Plan policies next. I see presented by CEO Gotti. Sorry, I expected Twilian, but go ahead, sir.
Yes, and actually, I wasn't as knowledgeable as I normally would be, but I did speak with both Twyla and this item, and so I can let you know. Essentially, what has happened is that in the past, there was concern by some emergency services pension holders that were subject to the Special Forces pension plan policy. And actually the exact same situation also exists with the local authorities pension plan, which your regular municipal staff are a member of, wherein the employer was deducting earned wages or pension from earned wages while under an acting position. So as an acting CAO, there was deductions related to pensions taken from the acting pay. In the police service and in the city's policies, there's a specific percentage that you get for acting pay. And it depends on the gap between position and position. But essentially, some plan holders, not at our municipality, but elsewhere, said that actually that's not fair. That's not right that you're deducting these wages from acting pay, because that is not going to be one of my best 5 years or the basis of the calculation of that pension. And so really I'm sure that this pension in a way that provides no benefit to me. So the response from the Special Forces pension plan, as well as the local authorities pension plan, was to make a change to say, okay, you are eligible to make those deductions from acting pay, but only if you have that included in the policy related to the same. So, part of the requested actions during our collective bargaining in the last round, agreed to collective actions, was to meet with the Business Association and, if they desired, put this policy amendment in place. So that is in place, or the collective agreement is in place that has that outlined. We did meet with the Police Association, and they are in support of this change. You will not see one for the local authorities pension plan come forward, and that is because I actually largely agree with the complaints that originated, that came about, is that if you follow the numbers, it's just in almost all circumstances, it's just an extra cost to the municipality that helps the pension pay its obligations. It's a benefit to themselves. I made that same case to the police association, and they see it differently. It is a different career, and so I can see why maybe the viewpoint is different. And so they have asked that this come forward, and we recommend you make the policy amendment.
Thank you, CEO Gotti. I see Manager Hill has joined us remotely. Did you have anything further to add, or are you? To me, that was a fairly good explanation. But if you have nothing further, then okay, perfect.
No, I have nothing further to support.
Councilor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. I'll just make the motion that council approve policy 14/124.02 2022 PO period.
Thank you for that, Councilor Ross. Any further discussion, questions? If not, I will call the question and all those in favor. Okay. So 6.5 then, year in review. Councillor Hoekstra, you had requested that this come out. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. First of all, kudos to the city by this report is excellent, and I find it's a great review for myself to look at. I just had a few comments towards the end. Just allow me to scroll to find where I was. So I'm used to this new computer, but there was a few wording questions I had. Here we go. Under community partners, which is on page 16 of the actual document, There's an incomplete sentence regarding the Santa Claus parade. So I just wanted to draw attention to that. Then under Christmas giving campaign, Santa's seems to be bracketed by some, apostrophe there that in the front of it and behind it. I'm not sure why. And then carrying on to the next page, under seniors outreach program under Mary Seymour Library, it's also seniors is bracketed by these apostrophes, which I don't think is the intent. And then under election on page, well, there isn't a page there. It, the very first sentence says official election are also available at, I'm guessing it should say official election results. That great document.
Thank you, Councillor Hoekstra for catching us. You're always on top of the wordsmithing. I'd actually mentioned to our manager. Are you a manager, Todd? No, sorry. Anyways, coordinator Vaughn, how I really like the pictures. I think there's some fabulous pictures in here, highlighting our community, which I thought was awesome. Any other further comments to this, Councillor Ross? So yeah, can those amendments still be made? Yeah, perfect. I see nods. Yeah, if you could, yeah, those are good pickups. If we could get those changed, if there's nothing further, I guess I would on the motion to accept the amended year in review as discussed for adoption, or something to that effect.
Need a motion on that?
I believe we do. Yes, please.
Thank you. I would make that motion.
Legislative Coordinator Bellabona, would you like to read the motion back, please?
The motion is that council approves the City of Lacombe 2021 year in review for public release as discussed.
Thank you. As amended and as discussed. I think Councilor Hedge. But further discussion. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried as well. Next up, 6.6, Councillor Hoekstra, your report.
Thank you very much again, Deputy Mayor Connick. I just wanted to correct information that I had in my report regarding the Lacombe Hotel. It said in here that people would move in before the end of February, and it is before the end of March, just in case anybody was like, wait a minute, what's happening there? And just thanking publicly Mr. Erickson for an incredible tour and catching his passion for the redevelopment of this building. It's quite exciting for our city.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hoekstra. Just a quick question to that then. Has that artwork that he discovered, has he put that up yet? Has that been, or not yet? I haven't been in there, sorry, since my original tour. I don't know if you want to answer that or direct to the point.
I can answer that. It's covered. It's hanging where it was originally. It's covered and it will be revealed when those rooms are finished appropriately. And yeah, that's pretty cool discovery as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we will need a motion to accept your report as information. Did you put it that motion?
That motion is accept the report as information.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions to Councillor Hoekstra's report? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? I don't know if the mayor's opposed or not to your report, but he didn't vote. But oh, there it is. Good. I think he might have, had some questions, but he didn't. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. 6.7 Racing Entertainment Letter. CEO Gowdy.
Thank you. I asked that this be pulled because we did have a further thought, after discussing it a little further, that it would be good if we could get council support in approaching some of our other partners, like the Chamber of Commerce, Macomb Regional Tourism, possibly ECHO, to get them to also sort of provide some input on the possible appeal.
Yeah, I think that would be prudent. Why not? More voices, the better. So to that end, then, do we pass a motion accepting this information, or how do you want to proceed there?
Yes, that is a great question. I think I would, if someone is willing to make a motion that council endorses the letter and directs administration to make sure that other community partners are aware of council's support for this initiative and of the initiative itself.
Councilor Ross, I see you.
Sorry, just one question, Deputy Mayor Koenig. Is the Macomb County also a partner in supporting this as well?
Yes, they have been in contact with the Track on 2, and I know that they're going to be discussing this already themselves. So you certainly could add them in as a partner, but I have talked to the CAO there, and they're taking similar action.
So to further this as a motion, are we receiving this as information or with information with the direction to continue to? What do you want this to be? We're receiving this as information, but you also want direction.
So our recommendation, Coordinator Bellabono, did you capture my proposed motion?
Sorry, CEO Gowdy, we only caught the beginning of it. It's quite crackly, so I have the endorsement of it, but not the end of the motion.
So endorse the attached letter and advise community partners, including the Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce, ECHO Lacombe, Macomb County, and the Lacombe Regional Tourism Board, to ask them to review and comment on the issue as well.
I would concur. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilor Dallas. No problem.
Sorry, I did not realize I had lit up.
No worries, it's all good. Just would not Lacombe County have crafted their own letter? I'm thinking because it's in Lacombe County.
Yes, they are working through that themselves. I don't believe it's actually come to their council. I've talked to the CEO now. He is aware of it. He's bringing it to their council.
Okay, so we have a motion then. Who has made that? Councilor Ross, did you make that motion? Okay.
Sorry, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Actually, it's just sort of a comment on this topic. I'm just wondering, because I've had a number of questions about this, because obviously it was in our agenda, but there was no really background information. It hasn't been included in a previous meeting. So people are like, what is all this about? So just for future purposes, I think that it would have been a good idea to include some background information with something like this, because this seems to the public to come out of left field. And all of a sudden it's like, what is this all about? We may be privy to information, but that's not really how these types of things really should be, right? If we're going to take a public stance on this, then we should be providing the public with the rationale for it and sort of the background. Maybe it's just a comment. I agree with what we're doing here, but just for future purposes, I guess, is all the comment is for.
Thank you for that. Did we not get information at a previous meeting though about this? Or no?
So when they made their original application, the city was a named interested party, I guess, by the province of Alberta. So they did ask for comment. I distributed that by email. So Councillor Hibbs is correct. There wouldn't have been previous public discussion other than in the county itself.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other comments about the motion that Councillor Ross has put forward? And that is unanimous as well. Lastly, 6.8. We had a letter that came to us from a Dr. Keith Woltzen home, looking for support. Well, I mean, the letter is an excellent letter. I mean, the information here is, I mean, yeah, there's some great information here. I think we should definitely get on board and craft a letter of support. Mayor Creasy, did you want to add anything to that? I know you'd wanted this brought forward.
I did, and thank you for that. I think this is something that's very important to our entire region, and I would see no reason why Lacombe would not support the enhancement of that regional facility. I think that Dr. Kim Jim and another doctor had presented to us once before on similar items. And this is just a continuation of it, of the lengthy battle that it is to acquire the amount of capital necessary for these improvements. So I think that we need to stay the course and get on board and show that we are behind their work and appreciate their efforts that they're putting into this.
Because you're not here. You're chairing, perhaps, or not. Would you like to make that motion that we craft a letter in support of this?
Well, it's fine.
Sorry, did you
I
say yes?
certainly would.
Excellent.
I certainly
Excellent.
would like to do that. Excuse me, the sound is extremely poor, so I don't catch everything. Hopefully my voice is coming through okay to you, but on the receiving end, it's not great.
Thank you for that, Mayor Creasy. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we got to put these mics perhaps, I don't know. But thank you for that, Mayor Creasy, then for your motion that we craft a letter in support of this endeavor, of this, the further expansion, much needed expansion for the Redevelopment Hospital. I trust that some of them we will craft a letter that's sufficient. So any further comments, questions? Okay, and then we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hibbs, did you have a comment?
I do, but it can go after the vote.
Oh, okay, thank you. That is unanimous. Go ahead, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you. So I guess sort of a follow-up to just the previous comment. A letter will be written. I'm assuming that will be shared with both council, obviously, and the public in the next meeting. And then perhaps this information can be shared with that. I agree it is an excellent letter, and I think that the public would be very interested in it and would be beneficial for the community to know that we're advocating on their behalf and what the issues are. So thank you.
Excellent. I believe that is all we have under request for decision this evening. So then we'll move into notice of motion. We do have a notice of motion. I don't have it in front of me. Well, I don't know, Councillor Ross, do you have it in front of you? Did you want to just read it in? Read it in. That's it. That's all we're doing here. Anyways, if you just want to read your notice of motion, that's all we're going to do here. And then do we vote? No, we don't vote on a notice of motion. No, it's just presented. Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Connick. It reads that Council direct administration to begin the process of site selection for the fire hall immediately with a goal to identify and acquire a suitable site in 2022.
Thank you for that. Moving on then to 8, in camera. At this point, yeah, I'd just get a motion to go into camera. I think at that point we'll take a 5-minute recess, 10-minute recess as well, if that's okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will make that motion